I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and Los Angeles Chargers. There's a lot of speculation of the Kansas City Chiefs that they're not as good as they are. That Patrick Mahomes hasn't been very good this year. That their weapons that are now starting to come off the board, Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, those guys aren't here right now. And yet, they still continue winning games. If you are looking for the ding-dong, the witch is dead on the Kansas City Chiefs, look somewhere else because it ain't happening. I understand that Patrick Mahomes hasn't been very good this year. And last year, even when he was having one of his mediocre-esque seasons for Patrick Mahomes' standards, I still triumphed and said the guy should be the MVP because he's doing it with nothing for weapons. Travis Kelce, last year during the regular season, wasn't Travis Kelce future Hall of Famer-esque. He was in the playoffs. He was not in the regular season. And now, he's kind of running it back because Rashee Rice is now gone, and Isaiah Pacheco is now gone, and Hollywood Brown is now gone. And yet they're still undefeated. And there is going to be a point in this Kansas City Chiefs offense where there's going to be a straw that breaks the camel's back to where they're just not as elite as we all thought they might be this year. But here's the thing. If you're looking for this team to die anytime soon, it's not going to. They're still the Super Bowl favorites. They still demand excellence. And for whatever it's worth, this is not an offensive-driven team. This is a defensive-driven team with the best quarterback in the NFL on the offensive side of the ball. It is very similar to those early 2000s Patriots teams, where those teams were led by defense, where those teams were led by Bill Belichick's brain. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you had what would be the future greatest quarterback of all time directing the offense. So if you needed a 2-minute score, you could still do it. But this is ultimately why the Kansas City Chiefs are still the Super Bowl favorites. And if you're like me and you pick someone else in the preseason and you're not necessarily feeling bad about it, but you understand that you're probably just going to be wrong, there are reports that the Kansas City Chiefs, although being up 4-0, are frustrated. Patrick Mahomes wants to get Travis Kelce the ball. Brett Veach is angry at guys for dropping passes. Whatever it may be, this team, although 4-0, is not championing around their Super Bowl rings or championing around their championship pedigree. They just continue to win games. And to everyone that gets frustrated, and that sometimes I do as well, with the feels like unnecessary flags or flag-happy referees that at times does seem like it's aiding more towards the Kansas City Chiefs from the officials. So what? So what? For years, everyone complained that Tom Brady got the best whistle in the NFL. So what? He is Patrick Mahomes at this point, a world-renowned fighter. If you're trying to get a cross-sport reference, Patrick Mahomes is the champion in boxing, in UFC, and you have to knock out the champion. You're not going to get help from judges unless, of course, you dominate a fight and win the championship belt. If you want to beat the champion, you got to knock out the champion. And at times that means they're getting a good whistle, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, whether it's Tom Brady. But this whole crybaby speculation of the Kansas City Chiefs, are you kidding me? Another whistle. Oh, the officials are on their side. That is loser mentality. Have you ever thought that maybe they're just better than you? Have you ever thought that? Maybe that they just demand excellence. And that's what has happened. Whether it's Brett Veach, whether it's Andy Reid, whether it's Travis Kelce, who's not getting his this year and not freaking out over it because he understands that there's a common goal. That is what is happening with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know you're frustrated. No one liked the winners that were the New England Patriots either. They were frustrating. It was every year the Tom Brady-led Patriots are going to come and smother everyone else. all season long. And now it feels like we didn't get a break from that. We have that now again with the Kansas City Chiefs. And now you have the speculation of, oh, well, it's frustrating because they get calls from the officials. Or my favorite argument for the Kansas City Chiefs, well, they're just not very good. They're a couple of plays away from being 0-4. Oh, so you mean they're situationally amazing? Oh, you mean every game looks the same? Oh, you mean they play to their terms of football? They don't let the other team dictate the game? At some point, you just have to start giving credit where it's due to the Kansas City Chiefs for winning every game the same way. It doesn't matter if they're down and out. It doesn't matter if Patrick Mahomes is throwing a couple interceptions. It doesn't matter what player is out. They have you play their brand of football, and you can't hang with it. And if you're going to complain about it, go ahead. But just understand that you're not losing because it's the officials, or you're not losing because the Chiefs are just getting lucky, and you're not losing because everyone is overblowing and overhyping Patrick Mahomes. I've heard that as well. You're losing, and get this through your head, try this out for size. You're losing because the Kansas City Chiefs are just better. And every game looks the same. And they look very similar to the early dynasty New England Patriots, where defense led this team, and they had an all-pro, elite-level, first-ballot future Hall of Famer quarterback leading the offense, so that in any 2-minute drill or situation where he needs just a shot downfield to get them back in the game or to win the game, they can do that. It's not because they're getting lucky. At some point, just admit that they're situationally better than your team week in and week out. Just admit it. And just admit that they're just better than you. They're just better than your team. And instead of complaining about flags, and instead of complaining about Patrick Mahomes, and instead of complaining about Travis Kelce, and instead of complaining about Taylor Swift, how about you just demand better from your team? How about you just demand better from your organization? And not just completely discount everything the Kansas City Chiefs have been doing. Because here's the problem. Everyone has tried to find, whether it's an analyst, I guess outside of Nick Wright, but whether it's an analyst or an opinionist or some talking head like myself. I said it last year. I thought the Chiefs are going to pull back. Every time we try to discount the Chiefs, what do? Very similar to the dynasty New England Patriots. Just found ways to win. And discounting them for that is just pure insanity. Because situationally, they're amazing. Because every game is played the same. They make you play football on their terms. And they don't care who gets it. And I guarantee you this. Whether they swing a deal for a guy like Davante Adams that I think is nonsense. It doesn't matter who they have. They could just be running Juju Smith-Schuster out there and Kareem Hunt and Carson Steele, and they'll still win. And just quick side note for the Kansas City Chiefs. The idea, just really quickly, and this will be a little rag on the Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't really mean it like that. The idea that the Las Vegas Raiders would ever trade Davante Adams to the Kansas City Chiefs is just idiocracy. It's clickbait. It doesn't make any sense. And here's why. This is not only an in-division rival that can't stand the Kansas City Chiefs. They are clear and utter dysfunction. And you know what could really add to the Chiefs' ability to win the Super Bowl or really put them over the top? Give them an all-pro wide receiver. Give them a future Hall of Famer wide receiver. After you, Las Vegas Raiders players, had a Kermit the Frog dressed up as Patrick Mahomes and making fun of him and poking fun at his voice and poking fun at Patrick Mahomes, you think now they're going to help the Chiefs? You think before they've even played a game against the Chiefs, they want Davante Adams out there running routes on them? That's insanity. The Chiefs could offer an insane load of picks for Davante Adams. It won't happen, but let's just say, for instance, they could. The Las Vegas Raiders would never do that deal. They would look like a buffoon of an organization who took the entire preseason, or at least chunks of the preseason, to poke fun at the best quarterback in the NFL, dressing him up as Kermit the Frog and making fun of his voice. And now you think they're going to help them? Can you imagine what kind of buffoons the Raiders would look like on national television in front of everyone if the Chiefs win another Super Bowl and they are put over the top because the Las Vegas Raiders gave them Davante Adams? Davante Adams is going to get traded. I absolutely believe that. I said that before the season started. But there's no chance he'll be a Kansas City Chief. They're division rivals. They don't like each other. They have spent the offseason making fun of Patrick Mahomes. And the last thing they want to do is be the reason the Kansas City Chiefs win yet another Super Bowl.